Hello, everyone. This is Sherry Greenhouse, Managing Partner of CRM Exchange, and I'd like to welcome you to today's technology showcase, Driving Digital Adoption via Customer Intent. And as you can see, we have opened up your screen. It's nice and big, and we're doing a screen share today. And we're going to show you a live demo of the Jacada Contact Hub. And now what I'm going to do is introduce your presenter, Chris DeToy, CMO from Jacada. Chris's responsibilities at Jacada include global go-to-market strategy, corporate positioning, and marketing strategy and campaigns. He has over 20 years of experience in product management, marketing, and software development, having held several senior leadership positions. Before joining Jacada, Chris founded a successful software consulting company providing large-scale software systems to Fortune 500 companies. It's now my pleasure to turn this over to Chris.
Great. Thank you, Sherry, and it's great to be here, and thank you everybody who took the time to join this webinar today. We definitely appreciate that. And our topic today is driving digital adoption, and I'm going to cover just a bit of the why and what I mean by that, and then certainly we'll jump into a demo so you can actually see something, before your own eyes, if you will. So, I'd like to start by just looking at what the Contact Hub is. And this is where we start the story or our journey. And if you look at the points of this triangle, there's really three primary methods by which organizations can interact with customers today. It's, of course, on the voice channel, which we know very well, where you phone in and you're greeted by the IVR and you try and self-serve and then ultimately speak to an agent. You can communicate, of course, on the website with digital virtual agents and web self-service portals and knowledge bases, and proactive outbound engagement. And we see more and more companies doing the proactive outbound for next issue avoidance. And my cable company is a great example of this. When my internet goes out, they proactively send me an alert to let me know that my cable is out and it will be back up in 45 minutes. And, of course, they've just managed to avoid an inbound call taking place. So these are really the three primary ways that you can communicate. And, of course, these icons here in the middle are really depicting the investment in digital. We all know companies are investing heavy in digital, whether it's virtual agents, collaboration and co-browsing, transactional self-service, knowledge bases, FAQs. There's a tremendous investment in digital. The challenge we see in the industry, and I'd be curious to hear the thoughts of the people in the webinar today, but despite this investment in digital, we're not seeing the reduction in call volume that we were expecting. And this is fundamentally one of the problems that we aim to solve with this Contact Hub. We take the visitors on your website and make sure we put the right digital asset in front of them. If I'm a customer with maybe I have a quote-unquote low lifetime value and I have a propensity for digital self-service, the right channel for me might be the virtual agent when I'm on the website. Contrast that to somebody who has a time-sensitive matter, high-value transaction, and they need to speak to an agent. So it's about putting the right digital channel in front of your web customers. But the bigger problem is actually over here on the good old voice channel, because you're investing in all these digital solutions, but guess what? Your voice callers and your voice channel isn't participating in this digital revolution. So you're spending a lot of investment, as you should, on digital, but you're leaving your voice callers behind. So it's this combination of your voice channel not participating in digital and a combination of your people on the website who just abandon and pick up the phone because they couldn't be bothered to adopt the digital solutions you put in place. And fundamentally, this is the problem we want to solve. We want to increase the adoption of these digital assets that you're investing in for both your web visitors and your voice visitors. Now, just to quickly look at the voice channel, and then we'll explore the digital channel and virtual agents and all that good stuff. But there is a concept called visual IVR, and many on the call might be familiar with that concept already, but this is a fundamental gateway into solving this problem of your voice channel being disconnected from your digital channel. And what visual IVR does is it's to pivot your voice callers into a digital experience. And what do I mean by that? Just take your average voice caller phoning in 1-800 to your organization. It's a standard voice call. Maybe they were on your website and they just looked for the Contact Us button for the phone number. Or maybe they just picked up their phone and they decided to Google you and phone you. Regardless, it's an inbound voice inquiry. They've bypassed your digital assets. They're just phoning you. The concept of visual IVR is that we'll pick up that this person is phoning from a smartphone. And once we let them opt into a digital or visual session. So they simply, for example, press 1, and we'll send them a link to a digital session. Now, the key here is there's no requirement to have a mobile application installed. It's purely an HTML, so the adoption is there. You don't need your customers to pre-install anything. So what started here as a voice call has now shifted into a digital session where you can much more easily navigate, go back and forth, see images, be able to look at your bill status. And we'll look at some more examples in the live demo. I just wanted to just clarify this concept of taking a voice caller and putting them into the digital experience, because it is pivotal to this entire presentation and demonstration you'll see here today. And of course, at any time they can reach out for assisted service and speak to an agent. So that's what visual IVR is just taking your voice callers, which was the bottom left of that triangle, getting your voice callers to now participate in all those digital assets. And what we'll be looking at next is how we can bring those digital assets into your voice callers as well. And it's not enough just to give your voice callers a digital experience. And the reason is because customer interactions are changing rapidly. And there's a number of reasons for this, but the primary two reasons that I want to cover today is one is the rise in chatbots and virtual agents. And we'll explore this in some more detail. And the other is a rise in something we call conversational commerce. And you'll see how we can bring these together in the demonstration. So let's look at what we mean by the rise in chatbots and virtual agents. You can't go anywhere today without hearing about virtual agents and chatbots. I'm pretty sure if we'd called this webinar virtual agents, we'd probably have 5 times the registrations. It's just such a hot topic right now. And there's a reason for it. One is the advances in technology. When you look at machine learning, natural language processing, AI, it's advanced leaps and bounds. It's becoming to the point now where it's actually really usable and good at a customer service scenario. Secondly, the platforms are opening up. Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, WeChat, they're all opening the platforms to allow developers to add to those chatbots. And The Economist came up with a great term. They called it the bot economy. And it used to be there's an app for that. Now there's a bot for that. So people are building their own bots on top of other platforms. And then, of course, commercial adoption is just fueling the entire cycle. The more companies start adopting this, the more revenue and income is associated with it. And, of course, that fuels further advancement. But let's just look at the growth in messaging. And this might or may not surprise you, but messaging apps have surpassed social networks in terms of monthly active users. And what the graph here shows is that for the 4 top messaging apps, there are more monthly active users in those than in the social networks. And speaking for myself, this is true. I spend more time in WhatsApp than I do in Facebook. And I imagine for many here on the call, it might be the same. And not only are there more monthly active users, people are spending more time in messaging apps than social media as well. So we are engrossed by this concept of messaging and the messaging interface. And that's what gave rise to this term, which was accredited to Chris Messina, then at Uber, called conversational commerce. And the quote here is maybe a little bit of a mouthful, but let me explain the concept. It's really utilizing that chat interface. We just saw how popular chat interfaces are. Let's utilize that chat interface to interact with brands, services, products, applications via this chat interface. And think about your phone today, your smartphone. I'm guessing you probably have 30, 40, 50, 70 applications on your phone today, and each one serves a discrete purpose and a distinct function. Imagine taking those 70 applications and simply combining them into one application. On the surface, that might sound incredibly difficult. To have 70 apps combined to a single app, imagine how complex that interface would be, the depth of the menu structure and all the options you would have. So it would be a very complex menu structure. And the concept with conversational commerce says, wait a minute, let's put a chat interface in front of that. Now, through that interface where we live in the chat interface, why can't we interact with our applications and our bots and our companies and our friends all through a chat interface? And if that sounds somewhat futuristic, look at WeChat. So WeChat has about 700 million monthly active users today, and they already allow you to make payments all through the chat interface, e-commerce purchases. You can order your taxi, order food. You can customize and order a pair of shoes. You can host a conference call such as this one, all through the chat interface, and gives you a sense of the power of what conversational commerce can bring to have all this functionality exposed to a single interface that people already know and love. Facebook Messenger, they recently hired the head from PayPal to make sure that they can do easy payments within Messenger. So when I need to send you money, once again, I just stay in that chat application that I'm already in. And that's really the premise of conversational commerce. So, when we look at what interactions might look like in the future, the voice IVR is there. We know that 82% of interactions still come into the contact center. But we can use visual IVR to take those voice callers and put them into a digital session where now hopefully they can self-serve and avoid that call coming in and really just have a great digital experience with pictures of the bills and going back and forth and typing alphanumeric data, just a much better experience. But once you have them in that digital session with visual IVR, you can now layer on additional technologies such as virtual agents. So think for a second what's happened here. You took a voice call. There's 82% of your interactions that come into the contact center. You've pushed them with visual IVR into a digital session where you've hopefully improved the self-service containment. And then you've brought your other digital assets such as virtual agents, FAQs, knowledge bases, all that digital investment you're doing, you can bring that in front of those customers as well. So it's this combination which really opens the door to conversational commerce. So with that, let me switch over to get a demonstration here. And I will bring this up. All right. And I will narrate here and just pause at the right points to explain and so you can see what's happening. Now, here's the key part. We're starting off with somebody just phoning in on the voice channel, as I mentioned. So they're dialing, 1-800, your organization, and they're coming in on a voice channel. Now, you probably won't hear the audio over here. So I will pause there. You may or may not have heard the audio, but this was my voice caller phoning in. We detected that he's on a smartphone, and we said, hey, to get expedited service, digital service, please push 1. The caller pushed 1, and they received that text link, which they then clicked, and they can get straight into a visual session over here or a digital session. At the moment, I'm keeping the voice channel open just to guide my caller. So we go through a confirmation, and the user can confirm that this is the phone number that they are calling from. And now we can get to the authentication. And now the user can provide their user ID and password. And I'm dropping the voice channel now. Now, you do have the option of keeping the voice channel open, but in this case, we'll drop it and keep just the data channel open. So now my user is authenticated. And you can see how they can visually see these options versus listening to those audio prompts, push 1 for this, 2 for this, etc. It's much quicker to scan and see these. In this case, my user is looking at the order status, and they want to view the order details, so they can just click that option and see everything about the order ID, the shipping address, payment methods, everything related to that order. And even better, in this case, let's assume that the order arrived, but it was damaged. So they can select that option. And here we can actually ask them to take a picture of the damaged item so that when they do connect to an agent or to file a claim, we'll have a picture of that damaged phone. So we take a picture and we can submit that. Now, you can imagine this was not possible to do at all in a traditional audio or voice IVR channel, just the benefit of being in digital. Now, let's move on and let's look at something else. Let's say that they want to add or change something on their plan. So in this case, they want to add social networking capabilities or extra social networking data to their plan, so they can select that and then just push next to confirm the offer. And we'll go ahead and just choose yes, please. And that offer is confirmed. So let's explore a couple of more options before we get into bringing in the conversational commerce aspect of this. We can also use the troubleshooter. Let me just pause there for a second. I mentioned the idea here is, you're investing in all these digital assets. Let's bring them to your voice caller so we can drive that digital adoption. And this is a great example of all that money you may have spent on FAQs, knowledge bases, and self-service troubleshooting environments. If you've got that, just bring that in so that your voice callers now get access to this. And again, you're just driving digital adoption, which is that really the reoccurring theme here is using those assets you already have. So now we can help resolve them with an inquiry. And here's an example. You can actually embed videos and self-help videos, another great asset your organization has probably spent money on with few people actually using them. So just bring them in for your voice callers, let them see it as well, and they're able to watch the video and hopefully resolve the problem. And in this case, we'll click here that we did, in fact, resolve the problem. So hopefully you're getting the sense of what a digital experience here means to a voice caller. So now let's take a look at, we'll go to billing and payments, and we'll look at some things we can do here and then bring in the conversational commerce aspect. Very rich display here. Again, something you just couldn't do regularly on the audio channel. I can see a breakdown of the bill, how many days left in my billing cycle. I can drill down into one of my accounts, whether it's the home phone or my internet or my mobile. So, if we look at just maybe a home phone, we can see an itemized version of my bill. Again, just everything which is much easier when you've got somebody on the digital channel versus the audio channel. Likewise, I could look maybe at my mobile plan, and then I can see what my gigabytes left are, my data limits, my texting limits, voice minutes, to make sure that I'm not going to go over those, etc. Maybe I want to speak to an agent. You want to give access to that. So certainly you can make the voice channel, the traditional voice channel, just a step away. And let me pause there, because if you do want to speak to an agent, I can give you the ability to chat with an agent, to call an agent, get a call back, or do a forum or type of crowd support. So it's back to channel choice and not forcing a channel on your customer, but rather giving them the channel that's really most convenient for them, along with estimated hold times and so forth. So we can provide a couple of different channel options here. And certainly we can tie into your existing CTI so we can query the hold times and callback times and so forth. But where I started this presentation, we spoke about conversational commerce and using that chat interface to do everything that we'd like to interact with an organization. So let's say that I want to enroll in autopay. I don't see the option here for autopay. So what I can do is directly engage with your virtual agent. Now, that can be our Jacada's virtual agent, or it could be any other virtual agent you might have invested in. The concept here, or the real value, is putting that virtual agent in front of your voice callers as well. So again, you're just driving digital adoption with those voice callers. So yeah, I couldn't find the option, so I engage the virtual agent, and I'll just type my question. Of course, this is standard natural language processing and machine learning, so we can train it on your domain, or again, maybe integrate it into a VA you have. So I would like to enroll in AutoPay. And the VA thinks about it for a second and then comes back and asks if I want to be using a checking account or a credit card. And I will say checking account. And it wants to know if I want to use the checking account that I used for the last payment that I made that's on file. So I'll just confirm and click yes. And now we're ready to enroll into that auto pay. Full balance will be deducted. May I complete this transaction? And I can go ahead and click yes. And now I have been enrolled, and hopefully I am now in auto pay. But so through this demonstration, what you could see is what started off as a voice call, got pivoted to digital. I went through a great self-service session, obviously more than a regular call, because I did everything from troubleshooting to order status to checking my bill and then enrolling in auto pay. But hopefully that concept was clear as to how you can now bring your voice callers into the digital world. These same digital technologies, such as the virtual agent, your self-service portal, should also be surfaced, of course, on your website, so you can capture your web visitors. And moving back to that triangle that I opened up with, where we had the top point of the triangle was proactive outbound, it's the same concept applies there, where we might want to send out a proactive outbound message, but not cause that to be an inbound call. Quite often, companies send out a proactive alert, and it does nothing more than generate another inbound call. So instead, in that proactive alert, you can put that same link and drive them into one of these visual sessions where they can self-service themselves or get additional information and additional status on that. So this is what we call conversational commerce in the context of the Contact Hub. Visual IVR, of course, is technology that's been in place for a couple of years now. Whether or not you extend the stack into virtual agents or whether you subscribe to conversational commerce, we certainly believe visual IVR is something you must implement today to make a dent on those voice callers that you're getting. It works with most IVR systems that are out there. It's a quick implementation. It doesn't break your IVR, so you can really quickly get a visual IVR running. And then certainly once you've got that, we strongly recommend you bring in these different digital assets you're investing in, such as the virtual agent that you saw here today. I hope that demonstration was informative for you and showed you new ways of being able to tackle your voice callers and being able to take your web callers and route them to the right channel. And I'll be happy to take some questions now coming in, and we'll take it from there. So thank you, Sherry, and I'll pass control back to you.
Okay, thank you, Chris. If you can stop sharing your screen, and we're going to go right to the questions. Perfect. There's a couple of questions. If you can just spend a couple of minutes, Chris, discuss what is actually part of the hub, what's Jacada, what companies that already have investments in other technologies, what they can use, where the overlay is. If we can just have a quick discussion on that.
Yeah, sure. So, there's a couple of questions there which might be covered by that. So, our premise is we want to help you drive digital adoption to lower your inbound call volume. That's the fundamental goal state. So we do provide a visual IVR solution that will take those voice callers and put them into a digital channel. We do provide a virtual agent in addition to a number of self-service technologies for the website as well, because we mentioned there's three primary points: voice, web, and outbound. We want to catch people at each one of those and improve the self-service. But we're not a rip and replace. So if you've already made an investment in a self-service portal and an FAQ and even a virtual agent, you can absolutely layer them on top of our visual IVR. If you don't have those, we'd be happy to show you ours as well. But we know the realities of the enterprise space is you've probably got a mix of technology. So we're trying to bring them all together to drive that adoption and lower the inbound call volume.
Okay, so if somebody has something, they can use what they already have, and then layer what you have, what Jacada has on top of that, or you can help them with the entire
Correct.
operation.
Yes.
Okay, good. If a customer interacts on their mobile with the digital experience and then they need to talk to an agent, how is that history passed along? How do they know who they're talking to?
Yeah, I'm glad that question was actually asked. So it's not something that I showed in the demonstration, and perhaps I should have, but certainly the agent gets full context, more so full continuity. Let me explain. Often we find the interaction starts on the website, and somebody is on the website navigating a few pages. They then pick up the phone and call you, and then we can put them in a visual IVR session and hopefully self-serve them. And if they don't and they want to speak to an agent, we'll connect them to an agent with the full journey that started on the website through what they did on visual IVR, including the data they typed in and everything they did, and then ultimately present that to the agent on their desktop. So it's full continuity from the original channel all the way through to the voice channel, and we'll show that entire history so that, it's a pet peeve of customers, right, is repeating themselves, and it's something we absolutely avoid doing.
Okay. Let's see. I've heard a lot of feedback that suggests chat interactions can be 3 to 4 times the handle time of voice. Can I assume this approach assumes we move that caller to self-service versus actual chat agent?
Yes, and I'd like to touch upon the two parts there. The anecdotal feedback that chat interactions can be 3 to 4 times the handle time of voice. We see that as well. And I think the industry, to some extent, is starting to, I don't want to say question, but we always said that assisted chat was a much lower cost channel, and maybe it's not as lower cost as we thought. However, the second part of that question, and maybe it wasn't that clear in my demo, but that chat session you saw there was purely a virtual agent chat. So it is a self-service chat with a virtual agent, precisely to keep that cost down and avoid either the inbound call or preferably avoid an assisted chat, which obviously has a cost associated with it.
Okay. With virtual agent chatbots, are there certain functions or that somebody should look for, that the virtual agent should be able to do this or must be able to do this type of functionality? So we have a lot of information on the chatbot and the virtual agents. As I mentioned, it is a hot space. I think the most important thing when you look at chatbots, it's less about the specific technology and it's more about, does it ultimately drive down call volume by improving the self-service and the containment ratio. And I always like to approach virtual agent assessment from that angle. It's really, if you have the best virtual agent in the world in terms of sophistication of natural language processing and machine learning, but it's not actually answering the question and lowering call volume, it's sort of missing the mark. And we know there's some very big multi-million-dollar projects that are all focused on understanding every nuance of text, but somehow miss the mark. So certainly from a list of functionalities that we have, it is the usual suspects of machine learning, NLP. But the other big aspect that you should look for with a virtual agent, whether it's ours or anybody else, is what can you do once you understand the intent of the customer? Is it actionable? If somebody wants to enroll in autopay or file a claim for lost luggage, can you interact with the back-end systems? Because if your virtual agent is just providing information, your call containment is not going to be what you wanted it to be. You want your virtual agent to also be transactional and be able to update back-end systems. Okay, good. Can you review again the list of options that the customer can do? So let's say they're trying to self-serve. Do they then have the option of going to live chat rather than voice? Or what are their other options that they're able to do?
Yeah, and a lot's going to depend. It's not so much a technology constraint as it is an organizational philosophy. So we will surface any and all channels that you do wish to make available, and you can selectively surface them at different steps of the interaction, or based on the customer profile. For example, you might not want to put voice or assisted chat right up front. You would like your customer to just navigate 2 or 3 nodes deep to see if they can answer their own question or watch a video, and then surface your more expensive channels such as assisted chat or voice. So certainly you can selectively enable and disable these. But again, it's less a technology. It's more as what channels do you support today and which ones do you want to make available and when, from a customer experience and customer effort point of view.
But there's no issue with the technology being able to, whatever the company decides to do, they can go to live chat or they can go to voice.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Let's see, our next question. For visual IVR, what % of customers do you know of that are opting to a digital session? Yeah,
so it's also a great question. It strangely enough varies by geography and territory. Here in North America, we see very close to a 45% consistent opt-in ratio, meaning so of people phoning in from their smartphone and being offered a digital session instead, we see about a 45% opt-in, and that's really before tuning and optimizing the process. So there's many things you can do, of course, to optimize that and improve that, but roughly 45% are opting in, which is quite a good number for a technology which is actually quite frankly new. And so we're seeing about a 45% opt-in there. And then the self-service ratio of those who do go into that digital session is extremely high, which is really where the ROI comes from.
Okay, good. Let's see. Here's our next question. Of the digital solutions you spoke about in the hub, which are more likely to be adopted in the near future from the customer's perspective?
So, I'm not sure if they mean the end customer's perspective.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, and again, and I hate to climb on a bandwagon of a buzzword, but we know virtual agents are just incredibly hot, and with the rise of messaging apps, etc. And what's really interesting is customers today don't even mind knowing that they're talking to a virtual agent. It used to be we tried to hide that fact, and it's partly because of the immaturity of the technology and so forth. Now that they're actually really capable, customers not even minding talking to a bot, if you will. So I certainly think virtual agents is the best digital play right now, on the assumption that, of course, you have a capable self-service portal. But the combination, maybe a little biased here, but of virtual agent and visual IVR, really believe is a killer combination, because virtual agents work for your website, and then visual IVR works for your voice callers, and combined, it's a powerful combination.
Is there any reference or studies done that you know of about an end user preferring a chat virtual assistant instead of a live agent?
It's a great question. I actually don't have knowledge or numbers of that. That's something I would certainly like to take and research further, but interesting question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So for the person that asked that question, Chris is going to have a transcript of the questions. He can research that and get back to you with that. Okay, here's an interesting question. We have a mobile app. I'm not clear on why I need visual IVR.
This one actually we get quite often is the investment in mobile apps, and you need a mobile app. But my most flippant comeback, and I don't mean to sound flippant, but it's always, if you have a mobile app, what did it do to your inbound call volume? And inevitably the answer is it didn't do a lot to reduce the inbound call volume. And it's not a fault of the app, right? It's a concept of adoption and app decay. If you think that I'm going to download your app before I talk to you, it's just not going to happen. It's high effort. And so I'm rather just going to pick up the phone and call you, despite me being a digital person. Now, in some industries, of course, the apps, in banking, for example, they have great app adoption. So there are certain exceptions. But even there, we find people are reverting to the voice channel, especially when the self-service session on the web starts to break down and they give up in frustration. They're going to pick up that phone and call you. They're not going to go into the mobile app. So the mobile app, it's an important part of your digital arsenal, if you will, but it's not that first line of defense against a voice caller.
Okay. Let's see. If we have a visual IVR, can we have a virtual agent on the website also for consistency?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think your virtual agent should be absolutely deployed on your website, and that's your first line of defense, if you will, on your website, and then take that same virtual agent technology and deploy it via visual IVR for your voice caller. So as the person who asked the question mentioned consistency, and I think that's a great way of putting it. You want that consistency in responses. And that's back to driving digital adoption, right? We know you're investing in all these digital assets, so continue to invest in them, but don't leave your voice callers out of this equation.
Okay, terrific. And that seems to be all the questions that we have. So what I'd like to ask you now to do, Chris, is just do maybe a 1-minute summary of what you would like everyone to take away from this showcase.
Sure. I think I'm going to revert to our tagline of driving digital adoption to lower inbound call volume. We see companies investing in digital, and it's important and it's necessary for the customer experience, but these digital investments often are not being leveraged to the extent they can be leveraged. So my ask for the takeaway is think of how you can extend your investment in digital to extend that investment to your voice callers and really drive down this inbound call volume so you can truly realize the ROI that you were hoping to get from those different digital assets.
And thank you. And I'd like to thank Chris DeToy and Jacada for bringing this technology to the CRM Exchange audience. It was a great demonstration and a lot of really wonderful questions from our audience members, and we'd like to thank you for joining us today. We always appreciate when you give us your time on the Internet to watch the presentations and the demonstrations that we pull together for you. At this point, we will be closing this webcast. As a reminder, the recording will be available in about 24 hours. We'll make sure to send you that recording in your email, and with the recording, you'll have a copy of the PDF of the slides. And as you're logging off, a survey will pop up. So please just take a minute or so and respond to that survey. So thank you to Jacada, and thank you to our audience. At this point, we will be closing our webcast. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.